All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over the online PDF book, AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps by Wohlberg, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. We're working our way through Chapter 8, the President's Quiz. We built the interface, and now, as it says right here, we're going to add the behaviors in the blocks editor. So what do we want to do? When the app starts, we want the first question to appear, including its corresponding image. When the user clicks the next button, the second question should appear. When you click it, when the second question is there and you click the next button, the third question should appear. When the user reaches the last question and clicks the next button, it should wrap around so that the first question appears again. Finally, when the user answers a question, the app will report whether or not it's correct. As mentioned, and this is a good way to do things, we will code these behaviors one at a time, testing as we go. So to begin with, we're going to define two list variables. So we're going to have question list and we're going to have answer list. So going back into here and going into the blocks editor, we will go to variables. And there's questions list. And the other one was supposed to be answer list. Oops. So there's question list. And this will be answer list. All right, so we now have those two variables that we were looking for. All right. So we're going to, I think, need a list. Block type, make a list. From lists, insert the items of the question list. Okay. Oh, that'll be in here, so we'll do that in just a second. And we're going to have these three questions that you see right here, and these will be the answers. So let's go in and put those questions in. So the first question is which president implemented the New Deal during the Great Depression? Second question, which president granted communist China formal recognition in 1979? And the last question will be which president resigned due to the Watergate scandal? And those answers will be Roosevelt, Carter, and Nixon. Okay, so we've got that stuff. I just think it's going to make it a little faster when I go in there to fill these up. Okay, so let's do that right now. So we'll put that down here for now. We're going to initialize this global question list to lists, and we want the make a list, I believe. Right, we're going to want 3 components in there. We now have 2, so we'll click there to add yet another item. There's our 3 components. We're going to put in 3 texts. And as long as we're going through all this trouble, let's duplicate this and grab that part and put it down here, because that'll allow us to use that in just a second. We don't need this. I don't know how that even happened, but it did. Okay, so we want to put in our 3 questions right here, followed by our 3 answers. first question. The second question. Whoops, sorry. And finally, the third question. Okay. And it might go faster if I just manually just key these in. So this is Roosevelt. This one is Nixon. Oh, that's Carter. And the last one is Nixon. All right. So I've got two lists here. You notice they're parallel lists. I have 3 questions. I have 3 answers. So that's done. The app needs to keep track of the current question as the user clicks the next button to proceed through the quiz. So we're going to define another variable called current question index, which it looks like we're going to initialize to 1. All right. So let's go back to variables. We'll grab another variable. Again, that will be current question index. And we're going to initialize that to 1. All right. Okay. Displaying the first question. Now that you've defined the necessary variables, you need to specify the app's interactive behavior. As with any app, it's important to work incrementally and define these one at a time. When you do that and you define things one at a time, you oftentimes discover errors, whereas if you would put them all in, and then you wouldn't discover the errors until everything was in. So you don't want to do that. To begin, think only about the questions and specifically displaying the first question on the list when the app launches. We'll come back to deal with the images and the answers later on. So, we want the code to work regardless of the specific questions that's on the list. That way, if we decide to change the questions or create a new quiz, we only need to change the actual questions. Let's put that into perspective as far as what the author means right there. All right? What we want to do is we want to code these in a generic way. So if we decided that either we wanted to change the order of the questions or maybe add additional questions and we didn't want them to necessarily go at the end, what is important here as we're working our way through this, okay? So what is important here as we're working our way through this is not so much the questions themselves, because they may change over time, all right? So as it says, for this first behavior, we don't want to refer directly to the first question. In other words, we don't want to be pigeonholed into which president implemented the New Deal during the Great Depression. Rather, we want to refer to the first question in the list. That way, as mentioned right here, the blocks will work even if you modify that first question. We select particular items in the list with a select item list block, or select list item block, I should say. It asks you to specify a list and an index. So if a list has 3 items, we can enter 1, 2, and 3 as the index, which is a little different than the way you oftentimes do that, in that sometimes at least the way that this is done. I mean, when you think about most computer programming languages start their indices at 0, okay? All right, for this first behavior, when the app launches, we want to select the first item in the question list and place it in the answer label. All right? Remember, if you want something to happen when the app launches, we saw this in the program in the last chapter, we can put it in the screen1.initializeEventHandler. So this is what we're going to want to do. We're going to tell it to get question 1, all right? And we're going to tell it to put it into our question label. So when we get done, if this works, it's going to put the question in here. Then we can put the answer in here, click submit, etc. While I'm here, let's take that submit button and let's set its width to the rest of the parent. Okay, maybe we don't have to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. All right, back to the blocks editor. So we want to do when our screen 1 initialize. Made me think too, because I promised you I would do that I should go back to screen 1 and I should go back to the title, which was screen 1, and we want that to be President's Quiz. All right, so that's been changed. Remember, you can put blank spaces and special characters in a title. You cannot put it in the name of a component. All right? Okay, so when we initialize, what do we want to do? We want to set the question label.text. All right, and we want to set that to select list item. All right, and the list is going to be the get global questions list, and the index will be 1. All right. So it says test your app, click connect and connect your device to the emulator for live testing. When the app loads, do you see the first question inside of our question list? Now we're not going to see the, we may or may not see the image. We're not going to worry about that for right now. Okay? So let's come back to here. Let's connect, reset our connection. Connect and connect to the emulator, which as always says it might take a minute or two. All right, you get, whenever I get this message that says launch it and start again, what I have to do is I have to reboot the system. And I've got a lot of stuff up here right now, and I'm only at 12 or 13 minutes, but I'm going to stop this as lesson 2 and restart the emulator.